Hello, everybody. This is the Chocolate News Podcast, and this week's podcast is sponsored by the Council on Aging. I'm your co-host, John Alexander Reese.
And I'm your co host, Andrea Carter.
And if you didn't know, the Cincinnati Herald has been around since 1955 and is the leading African American owned newspaper in the greater Cincinnati area and northern Kentucky area. So, Andrea, how's it going this week?
Oh, it's going fine. This has been a fun filled week. Just going straight along. I mean, there's been some interesting news events going on, from the Women King to the January 6th committee to a lot of sports things that have been very uplifting and powerful. So I'm going to get started. First off, to congratulate the Young Guardians, which we originally known as the Cleveland Indians. The Guardians won the AL Central title for the first time. They have a young team on hand, and they came out on top. They clinched it over the weekend when it was when the Chicago team, the White Sox, lost one over the Texas Rangers,
Right.
and they because of that win that pushed the Guardians into the championship for the AL, into the playoffs for the World Series, but they became the AL Central title champions. So that's fantastic. So we'll get
Yeah.
to watch them in the World Series and see how well they do. And there's a picture, on the Herald website of the young guys throwing champagne on themselves and acting up and everything. And this is the first time that they have actually done this in a while. This is the 11th Central title for the team. They haven't done it since 1994. So, it's been a long time. I don't know when the Reds will do it, but, I'm hoping that, we get to be that way, though this season proved not. So, it is, I'm very happy for them, and I'll be rooting for the Guardians.
Yeah, definitely, because I think they haven't won a World Series since like 1948
Yeah.
or around that time. It's been a while, so if they do get one, that would be fantastic.
Well, I think they have the heart and the energy, and they're hungry. And when
Mm,
you have a hungry team, you have a winning team. And I think that they are very, very hungry, and they're looking to do something. And I can't wait to see what they do. So there's that. Then the other winning team, the Bengals, finally won one.
yes, thank goodness.
I mean, I guess three time is the charm for the Bengals. I mean, with each with the first two losses, you saw that Super Bowl team. They just needed tweaking to get their act together. But each time they came back, you saw the defense beef up. You saw the offense get their act together. You saw Burrows doing what he needed to do. And it seems like with the Jets, everything was clicking. And they weren't perfect, but they won. And it wasn't that they won by a field goal. They actually were getting touchdowns. They were passing the ball. They were moving the ball. They weren't staying in one spot or just getting stuck. They were actually working to get it and keep the ball and move it down the field. And so I think they just needed a little tweaking, but they play Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football, so it's going to be the history of the Bengals is they never do well on Monday night, and they never do well when they have a short week. So this is a Thursday night football game. It will be televised live here in the city, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do against Miami, because Miami's been improving too. They used to be also one of the joke teams of the NFL. They're
Right.
no longer a joke team. They quote swimming upstream, haha. I I couldn't resist. I'm sorry, I could not resist. So, oh, um, so we'll see how they do. Everyone does tomorrow. The Bengals going after a fish, so hopefully they're very hungry and they'll get a full meal. So, that's what
Yeah.
I can say.
Well, you know what? I hope they do well because as some of you may know, Thursday Night Football is on Prime Video now, so I know they're going to get a big audience. So let's hope the Bengals show up and get that W on Thursday night.
Well, I hope they do get the W. I mean, they even though they had a short week of practice, I believe they're at their home for this game because they were or were they away for this game? I can't remember if they're home or away
Which one? The one coming on Thursday?
on Thursday.
I believe they're here,
Okay,
if I'm
so
not mistaken.
hopefully Miami got out in time before the hurricane because the
Yeah,
airports were shut down. So,
yeah.
um,
Maybe Miami will feel that cold weather here and, won't be able to adapt to it. I don't know.
well, yeah, that's true too. I mean, well,
Yeah.
actually, it's supposed to start warming up for the weekend. So,
Mm,
Thursday is the early beginning of the weekend. So, we'll see what happens. But hopefully, they'll do well, and the Bengals will win and keep on stepping. So,
yep.
that is that. And then, speaking of football, and the Super Bowl, it was announced by the NFL that Rihanna is going to headline the halftime show for the next Super Bowl.
Yay.
So I'm just kind of like, okay, they hit it. They hit the mark last year with a hip hop rap reunion, so to speak, and it was off the chain. Some people, I remember I was watching Twitter while I was watching the halftime show last year, and folks, some of the older people on Twitter were like, "Who is this? What is going on?" And then the young people were like, "Yes, yes,"
Uh,
So it was great. I mean, Twitter blew up. It was fantastic. So I know Riri is going to be interesting to see what she looks like getting off that baby weight after having her kid and everything. So, but I'm looking forward to hearing her. I know we'll probably see a few advertisements for Fenty, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what she does and see how well she's going to perform. Also, see what surprises she might bring with her. You never know who she might bring along to sing with her. So,
oh yeah, if Jay-Z can come out there, that'd be pretty nice.
well, this is Jay Z's Rock Nation and Apple Music are producing the show, so it's going to be off the chain. This
Oh
is
yeah.
that this is something that the NFL, because they do have an equity issue, and they're trying to show that they are inclusive with the halftime show and everything else. Pepsi again will sponsor the halftime show along with Apple Music, and there are a lot of folks on Apple Music, and I think it's going to be interesting, because they did rap music last year. They're going to do Rihanna this year. What I would like to see them change up for 2024. I want
But
them to see them do some Latino musicians.
that would be interesting.
You
Yes.
know, to just for that inclusivity. I think our Brown brothers and sisters of music, they do some incredible stuff. I mean, I don't listen to enough of it, but they're passionate. They got rap artists too. They have country and other folks, and I think I would like to see a little bit of diversity with the halftime show and have them do a little bit of Latino music because it would be fantastic for us to see that group of musicians and what they can do to perform because there are some incredible singers and that passion and everything. It would be fantastic to see that. So,
Speaking of Latino music, I would really like to see the reggaeton. That would be awesome to
mm,
see. Maybe get some Daddy Yankee in there, Bad Bunny. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. So maybe that might be a
see,
thing
you
in
know
the
more than I
future.
do. I mean, I just turn on the radio stations and I hear what's going on in that. I mean, I've heard various folks over the years, and I like what I hear. The beat, they are in the passion and the intensity of the music is fantastic,
Yeah.
and I don't. I listen to it when I'm in that certain mood for something different. And also, they're jazz artists. They play some wicked stuff as well. So
Hmm.
it's something to a lot of jazz artists come from a number of Latino countries,
Right.
especially from Cuba and South America. in Argentina, they have that percussionist sound that is really fantastic. So I'm looking forward to see what Rihanna does. And does she have a new album coming out soon or no?
I know that she's recording new music because if I remember correctly, I think the last time she actually released new music was like maybe back in like 2016 because I remember going to her concert. It was like the what was it? The Anti-World Tour. That was like her last album. And she came to Cincinnati. I saw it with my cousin and she was amazing, of course. But that's like the last time she released new music. She's been focusing on being, just becoming a billionaire and stuff.
You
So
know, the cosmetic queen and everything else.
yeah,
And
yeah.
because I mean, she hasn't performed publicly since the Grammy Awards in 2018. So this
Oh,
is
okay.
I guess she's getting back to her roots because
Yeah.
I mean, she's done the beauty. I mean, Fenty is doing well. She's introducing the Fenty clothes collection that seems to be taking off as well. She has done a lot to round out, I guess, because of the need for makeup. And when you can't find it, what you need to make you look good, you just go get someone to make it for you and then you sell it. So, because I know I have friends who enjoy wearing Fenty and, you know,
Hmm.
her cosmetic collection. So it's, you know, I'm looking forward to that. Then we have The Woman King.
Yes.
You finally got to see it.
Yes, I did.
What did you think?
I have to say it was much much better. I mean, don't get me wrong. I knew it was gonna be good, at least decent, because Viola Davis, she's great in everything, and then the director Gina Prince Blythewood, she's had a few films I liked. She did Love and Basketball, in case you guys don't know that.
Mm.
But this totally exceeded my expectations. I mean, really, it's like this is probably like my second favorite movie of 2022.
Oh,
Yes, and that's a hard bar. My top 10 list is very hard to crack. I am a movie fan, so I have a I like to think I have good taste in movies. So, it's just everything just it's just from the action scenes, from the acting to direction. The Woman King reminded me of like the movies that they just don't make anymore. It's like those old Hollywood spectacle movies where just everyone can just watch it and just say that was a great film. A film that, can be seen by anyone and can transcend race or gender and everything. It was just a really and very emotional film too.
oh
And
yeah.
yeah, just gut wrenching emotional too. And like I said, that's thanks to Viola Davis. She's just she's just amazing in the role. She plays the general. I'm trying to remember the name of her character. Ah,
Aniska,
yeah,
uh,
Nanciska. I think that's what it is. Yeah,
Nanciska.
yeah.
But who played her daughter?
I'm trying to remember who played her daughter because she was also very good. It's like she definitely has a future. And I wish I could remember her name.
She did an incredible job.
Oh, her name was Nawi, but
Nawi.
I'm trying to think of the actors. Let me look this up real quick.
Oh yeah, because I
The
mean,
actress the actress's name, and I hope I'm not butchering it, is Thuso Mebidu. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce her name. I hope I'm right. But she did a fantastic job too. I think she could get nominated too. She's like it's just a great performance. I'm sorry, I'll let you speak,
oh no no
Andrea.
no. I was just gonna say she did an incredible job, and then also Lashana Lynch, who played
Yes.
Izogi, is
Yes.
Izogi. I mean, those two, the chemistry between Viola and Nawi and Izogi. I mean, it was just phenomenal how they portrayed their characters and the strength of character. And even when um, Lashana Lynch's character had a weak moment when she broke her arm and was in one of the slave pens, you know, and she wigged out for a minute, and then now we just reminded her, what are we going to do and how are we going to get out? And and she eventually after, and when they pushed that bone back in her arm,
Ooh.
that was, I had several. I'm normally someone who could handle when stuff blows up or someone gets killed or things like that. But this movie had me just moving in my seat
Mm.
because it was knives and there was blood, and my mind was working overtime because I was like, oh, oh, that hurt. Oh, oh, And
Oh
it was
yeah.
nice that it was not a shoot 'em up movie. It
Yeah.
was people thinking, doing, and using knives. Yes,
Yeah.
there were guns involved, but not directly. It was like the gun was a sub support character in
Yeah.
the movie, because one tribe that was quote in charge, they relied on the horses and the guns,
Mm-hmm.
where the OG relied on their wits and knives and bested, but they knew how to shoot and bested the men who put them down, who thought they were beneath them. And I think that was another issue of how men, because they view women to be a certain thing, they always underestimate what's in front of them or what they can do. And I know a lot of men are intimidated by strong and confident women,
Mm.
where instead they should relish being in the presence of a strong and confident woman, because they don't know how that's going to help them succeed in what their dreams, what they want to do.
Right.
And I think that was one of the energies and passions of the movie is be strong, be empowered, be confident. And the fact that there was someone out there who wanted this movie to be boycotted because they show the slave trade. Well, I think that was a sub issue of the movie. African tribes sold each other into slavery.
Yeah,
They
it's just
all
it's a
they
hard
all made
truth.
money. And I mean, it's a hard truth, but African tribes became rich off the slave trade. We should not be afraid to admit that, but also recognize why folks were sold into slavery from the African tribes, because that's what they did with their enemies.
Yeah.
Instead of killing them, they sold them. That
Mm-hmm.
way they don't have to, deal with them coming back on them if they got back to their village. It's a way of getting, moving the problem to another space and not have to deal with them, and weakening their enemy so that they can go again and get more and destroy them and take over their tribe and their property and get their cash, so to speak, or their riches. And I think people need to look at history and what went on in that in the region, and basically we see it playing out today in African countries of who's at war, who's doing what, and why we have dictatorships in African countries, because that's what they know historically. That's what they've done. And even
Mm-hmm.
when they have voting, they still have a quote dictatorship, or what's the other one besides dictatorship, and an autocrat system.
Right.
So there, you have to understand that goes to that history of how they do things, and we should not be afraid of what our ancestors did. Yes, we got here in a difficult situation. Our ancestors all came over on a slave ship. Some did not, but a lot did. But even here in America, there are some older black families that owned slaves
Yeah.
and are rich today because they owned slaves
Yeah.
and survived Jim Crow and all that had occurred to maintain their wealth. And I just think that we shouldn't run away from our history. If we're putting folks on the spot and recognize, in the, like I said before, the majority community, this is history.
Yeah.
Accept what your ancestors did, but don't be like them. Be better than what your ancestors have done. And
Exactly.
some people can't accept the truth. They want to hide from the truth, or they don't want it to occur, or that group have power. So we're seeing the results of folks being afraid of the truth. That's the reason why a lot of people can't accept the 1619 Project, because it is the truth.
Yeah.
But you know what? Even if you deny it, you burn it, you get rid of it, the truth is still out there. It's going to be handed down, it's going to be repeated, it's going to be printed again. You can't get rid of it. So why hide from it? Because if you think about it, everyone who was in a crowd shot from the civil rights movement shouting at the black girls and the black boys who were the first for whatever high school or college, they have a grandchild or a great grandchild saying, Grandma, why are you in that picture? Why are you doing that? That's on record. You can't
Yeah.
deny that photograph. And, it's catching up with for every action, there is a reaction. And it
Yeah.
catches up with you. And you have to either be proud and take ownership of what you did and explain why this is what we believed. We don't think it's right, blah, 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 blah. Or you say, this is what I believe, but I understand if you don't believe it. But this is what we did at that time because of the political situation. Own it, live up to it, and then move on from it. And the reactions that we see now in this political climate are scared people afraid of a future that is different than what they grew up with. And you have young people who are saying, are you crazy? Are you stupid? One half that way, one half this way. And, it's going to be interesting to see down the future. But embrace what your ancestors have done, embrace your history, and move forward. You can't change the past, but you can change the future. And I think that's what the Woman King represents. Because if you think about it, everyone, the one mandate of the Civil Rights Movement was know your history, know where you came from, so you know where you can go in the future. And a lot
Yeah.
of my ancestors stressed education because they were denied the right to learn how to read, denied to
Hmm.
learn how to write and learn and comprehend and do something more than just be a servant.
Hmm.
And I think the Woman King shows that we weren't servants. Our history showed that even though we were honorable people working a day's work, whether it was making baskets, making palm oil, serving as a soldier in a king's army, they were proud people and supported what was going on. We weren't servants. We were servants of a different aspect. And I think we should relish that and move forward. So that's the Woman King.
And just one more thing to add too. I love it how a black woman directed this because black women don't get that many chances to direct well, I don't know if I call this a big budget film. It's about 50 million, but let's say mid budget, but it's 50 million, it's still a lot of money. But usually black women don't get a chance to direct these mainstream films, especially with a higher budget. So
No.
that's what I'm so glad at that. And I'm glad that this film is doing well because it opened at number one and it held uh very well in the second weekend too. So I'm just glad that black women are given, more chances to direct, like bigger mainstream movies, whether it be like Nia DaCosta, who directed like last year's Candyman. Now she's doing a Marvel movie. And like us, and also with who's the other? And Ava DuVernay, she directed Selma. She did a Disney movie, and so I'm just glad Hollywood is giving black female directors more, more opportunities because that's what we need. We need more directors of different cultures to tell their story. But I think now is the chance to give black female directors, their time. It's their time to shine and all of that. So I just wanted to point that out. And plus, the fight scenes in this movie are awesome. I had to say that too. I mean, they're like literally like on the level of like Braveheart. I love Braveheart.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite movies.
Oh,
Braveheart
yes.
and Gladiator and like Last of the Mohicans. I kind of got that vibe just from the action scenes because they didn't do any cuts. they showed the whole thing.
And,
So
and on top of it, if you think about it, they were dealing with machetes.
yeah, exactly.
They
Mm,
weren't those thin knives or sabers. They were machetes.
yeah.
And I like the fact that when Naui first got in trouble with Viola Davis's character Nanista, she was like she held out her weapon, her knife, and said, "Okay, go ahead, attack it." And she dropped the sword because it was so heavy. She was like,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. And and I was like, "Ooh, you know, you don't think about how heavy a knife is, and they're swinging that thing to cut off somebody's head."
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, the power and
Yeah.
everything. I couldn't. The knife scenes when they were putting in the arm and pulling it out, I was just like, ooh, ooh. But anyway, it was a good one. And the
Yes.
final chocolate news of the day is Hurricane Ian that is going across Florida right now. And I mean, it landed. It's a lot of rain. It's Category 4, and right now, my sister and my father they live in the southeast on the southeast coast of Florida, so they're out of the danger zone of the hurricane, which they were because they had early talks of evacuating because when they didn't know which track the hurricane was on, they were talking about evacuating. And I was just like, come here. So they were going to come to Ohio if they had to evacuate. And especially if it was going to be a Category 5. And then it turned. So then they were like, oh, okay. So they were fine. And then there was a tornado warning. I called my father and was like, are you hiding in place? Are you fine? He was like, it's over 10 minutes. We're going to bed. And I was like, okay, you're fine.
Uh,
So, they're fine. They're in that area where they're just getting a lot of rain and hope another tornado forms. Ian has left Cuba and has moved across the water. At one point, it was about 150 miles per hour wind, and it was getting close to becoming a Category 5. But then, as soon as it hit the warm water and land, it dropped to Category 4. So it's about 148 miles per hour. It's now landed on the West Coast, and it's between Tampa and Cape Coral. Naples, this town that sits on the west coast of Florida, the storm surge. They were saying it was going to be between 6 and 12 feet high. My sister told me that Naples is under a lot. Most of Naples is underwater. A lot of areas are without power, like all of St. Petersburg is without power. And in fact, a number of counties are between 50 and 90% without power right now across the area that's being affected by the hurricane. Then there's some other counties that have less power outages, but that's because of the rain and not due to the hurricane, so to speak, in the problem areas. I just pray for the folks that everyone is, those who evacuated are watching, those who have decided to hunker down and ride it out, pray for them that they're where they are, their sheltering in place is safe and they will not be
hmm
affected, even though there is flooding in streets and buildings and powers being knocked out. And you just don't know what the damage is going to be because it's once it hits land, that hurricane moves slowly across the land before it's going to go back out into the ocean again and up the east coast of Georgia and South Carolina. So it's I've seen the devastation before, but I have not um, um, you know it it does a lot of damage. I just got an update actually.
Oh.
Hurricane Ian is now weakened to a Category 3.
Oh, okay.
It will still do damage.
Yeah.
But a 3 is not as damaging as a 4 or 5.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's still a lot of water damage, a lot of wind damage. Winds have dropped to 100 miles per hour. Whew, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Um, Key West International Airport has reopened. Will reopen Thursday morning. So everyone who's trying to get in or out of Florida is going to have to wait.
Mm.
Um, and that's pretty much the update that I have right now. So it's going to be interesting to see throughout the night what's being said. But I'm just pray for the people,
Yeah.
especially those who are on the West Coast. The storm surges. You know, there's a lot of good areas along there. I summered. I got to spend time in Fort Myers last year for a holiday during Memorial Day weekend last year, and you know it's a beautiful spot. It sits in this peninsula off of Florida, and you know it's just a beautiful area. But there's that but. Um, you know it sits on the ocean, and I watch storms roll in, storms roll out, and there's just no place to go. Just you know, just pray that the buildings survive and everything survives the wind and keeps standing up, and the people don't you know are not affected as much as you hope they're you know as you the worst case scenario hope it doesn't happen as much as it could.
Well, that's it for today's show. Once again, I want to thank Andrea for coming on and discussing all of that good chocolate news. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you.
And I also want to thank this week's sponsor, the Council on Aging. You can find more information about today's topics and past podcast episodes at www.thecincinnatiherald.com, the session newsletter, or on our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. Our podcast is on Apple, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Amazon, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. In addition, the Cincinnati Herald is now looking for news distribution and delivery agents. Please contact our publisher, Walter White, at 513-680-7076 for more information. I'm John Alexander Reese,
And I'm Andrea Carter.
and have a good day.